So myself and Gigi, we were always kind of very like vibrant, energetic children. I don't know if we have any sort of, disorders as like the discussion goes on with people, but like we always had like a high energy about us. And I think our mom just always was like, we need to get this energy out. So we started kind of taking different classes, like after school classes. We started going to the choirs, we started going to dance classes, like drama, you name it, like we were doing it and we loved it. Like we were like, this is our world, this is our element. So we always knew that like we're gonna do something with the entertainment. Then our father, who like used to be a lorry driver, he used to be like going on long journeys. He would come home and he'd be home for just a couple of days, but he used to have a camera, and that was like his way of kind of keeping those memories, holding on to those memories of a life that goes so fast, I suppose, with kids growing up.
Yeah.
And he used to kind of be like, oh, sing us a song and do us a little dance. And like, if you see any of the footages, like family footages, if you see any other kids that were with us, you can see how shy they were. And then there was us so comfortable in front of the camera.
We used to fight for the microphone,
like fighting for the microphone,
because there was only one mic and she'd be like, well, it's my turn. No, it's my turn.
And then one of us would drop it and our dad would give out, but then we'd be back in business in 2 seconds, be like, okay. It's either one of us or none of us, so we have to get on. But yeah, so all of these things I think built up to our comfort levels in terms of front of the camera, and being kind of, I suppose, in the entertainment world. And I suppose it always became a part of us. But I also think like now looking back, like with our dad having passed away when we were like 17, so that's a good while ago now. So 16 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was his anniversary there in January, so it's gone 16 years. But I was like, when I look back and reflect, I kind of think to myself, I think music, like when he passed away, we really threw ourselves into music, started actually writing songs, and that was when it kind of took a different turn where we wanted to actually express our emotions, process our difficult.
Yeah, there was kind of a lot of grief that was coming up to the surface, on the account that we lost our dad. And I think we were 17, so we were teenagers essentially. And like, I think if you look back on yourself being a teenager, you had a lot of big emotions, but you didn't know how to self-regulate properly. And I think music was always a part of our lives, but at that moment in time, we used it as a tool to kind of help process our emotions essentially, to kind of tap into what we were feeling, what other people were experiencing. It was kind of like we were products of our environment essentially. Yeah. And we just started talking about stuff we were going through. And then next thing you know, we're just writing an album.
We kept going, but I feel like now upon reflection with how much time has gone by, I feel like that was our way of still staying connected to our dad, because we associate him with the filming and the singing and the dancing that he asked us to do. And I think in so many ways, like when we perform, and we feel like we're also performing for him, and we know he's looking down on us, and like it's like a weird,
it's a weird spiritual,
it's an element of relationship there, I think, as well.
Yeah, you definitely spiritually tap in.
Yeah.
Because I think when you write music, sometimes you feel like the music comes from tent. It was like a lot of darkness, a lot of heaviness. But then as you kind of progress into different albums, it's like you can see how much lighter things are getting.
Fun.
So I think it actually sort of reflects even like our mental state and what we were kind of feeling like at that moment in time. So it definitely played a huge part in our personal development and who we became as people, and kind of how we wanted to show up in the world and what we wanted to say.
I also think like when you're a teenager and you're writing songs, you always feel so alone in your feelings, and you think helped us to arrive to a place that when we shared our music with people, and people would come up to us, even the heavier stuff back then, people would come up to us and be like, oh my God, thank you for sharing the song. I've lost somebody, or like I had this negative experience and I felt like I've been keeping it to myself. It makes me feel like I can talk to you about it.
It makes people feel
you brought light to kind of more heavier topics. So it actually made us feel less alone and made somebody else less alone. And I think that's where all kind of this music is so special.
Yeah.
And you guys obviously had a massive move when you were young, moving from Lithuania to Ireland. And how did that affect your music?
I suppose we were so young at the time, because I think we were like 11 years old when we first moved over. But I think the thing was, it was also us learning the English language. We were also living in quite a small town. I know there was that you could study music as a subject in the secondary school, but then I didn't feel like there was that many extracurricular activities. And then obviously our parents, like my dad was a lorry driver, my mom was a general nurse, so they both had quite like shift work that they had to do from time to time. So that kind of led to us not being able to be dropped to different classes and other places. And I think public transport wasn't exactly always great in that town either.
It wasn't great at the time, no.
Yeah, it's like, let's not get into that. But we I think it kind of took a back seat for quite a while. And then give or take around our teenage years, like we started really connecting with music. And I think it was like a part of our lives where we get together with our teenage friends and we'd all be like, oh, have you heard this new album? Oh, have you heard this rapper? And
then you're kind of like, and then back in the days when we used to hold each other to share whatever songs they have on what do you have? And then you're like, before the lunch bell rings, back to class, you're like, quick, like
it's only 2% left.
And then so like it's like looking at those days. But
it was such a different world though when it was in regards to music. Like if you think even like the different like LimeWire and Winamp and what like
Winamp days, iPods like started off and everybody can like have their little portable music playlist.
We used to burn all the CDs on like the MP3 play, like the MP3 CDs and all, and like we'd have like gaff parties and it'd be like, oh, what's like the new music everyone's listening to?
Yeah, we discovered like the discotheques at the time, and then there was like a transition into raves and kind
junior
of junior discos and then raves and like that was a huge explosion of kind of understanding music and connection, and it really does connect you to other people. And so with Lithuania and Ireland, I do think there was a huge gap of where it disconnected us from our everyday kind of the choir, the dancing, the drama. There was a huge gap where it just stopped because we're in the middle of nowhere. But then afterwards, when we got older, like I said, with our dad's passing and kind of the connection to the rave culture at the time and how that kind of exploded, and we're like, oh my God, this is incredible. And you get to meet so many cool people, have interesting conversations. So, I mean, it's like, it was meant to be that the music was always to come back into our lives one way or another. And I think it never left us. It never did.
I think I should also mention that my mom bought us a karaoke machine when we were like 15, 16. I can't remember exactly, but it was like early teenage years. And she was like trying to obviously support us and trying to kind of encourage us to do a bit of performing. And she was like, look, there's 2 microphones, and they were actually wireless
microphone machines. So we were like, oh my God.
And it has like some like 10,000 songs, all the different ones from way back when. And ironically speaking, I was like, we still use the karaoke machine till this day. Like we have a smart TV now, so it has like different connections to it and everything, but it's like a tradition on Christmas that we sing like karaoke together. So it's still kind of remained a part of our lives, but it was like something that my mom was like trying to encourage us to do. And then it sort of transpired that we ended up going to do music performance, going to do just live performances in front of audiences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like built into that moment.
We love our karaoke machine till this day.
How do you cope with constant pressures of being a musician, you know, especially in this day and age when you kind of have to self-promote? I'm assuming you guys do kind of promote all your stuff yourselves, all that sort of stuff. How do you juggle everything? It must be fairly stressful.
It doesn't get easier. It doesn't, no, because as you get older, like you have so many more other responsibilities kind of falling on top of you. So it's going to happen. But we also look at it that way, that music is such a part of feeling like a positive feelings in ourselves and our own lives. And like that is always the thing that gave us so much like positive energy when we go onto the stage, get off the stage, and people like even during the audience, and they're excited to hear our music and they're like cheering us on. And then we get off the stage and we talk to people afterwards. That feeling lingers for weeks and weeks. So we always kind of feel like when inspiration comes along, sometimes you have to kind of hone in on inspiration. You can't always expect inspiration to come in. You have to have certain things in place. But it does come with its own challenges. Like you said, the promotional aspect, having a strategy in place. And I think me and Gigi, we have our own strengths and weaknesses to offer, to bring to the table. So we kind of we work with each other to kind of be like, okay, can you do this? Can you do that? And you have to just divide up the workload and have a plan in place, because if you have a timeline in place, it's more likely you're going to keep going and get that done instead of procrastinating. So all of these things are important.
Yeah. And I was going to say, just to add, I think administrative skills is always going to be the most valuable as being a musician. I know that that's one part that a lot of musicians don't like to do it.
No,
as in like,
we don't like it either, just to say.
I just want to focus on my creativity. You know what I mean? Everyone kind of goes in with that notion, making music that like, oh, that's all I want to do. I want to just make music day in and day out. But unfortunately, that's not the reality, especially if you're independent. You have to do the paperwork, you have to do the emails, you have to have your marketing up to scratch. Yep. You have to kind of keep content up to date so that everybody's kind of like keeping, how do you say?
You have to register all your songs, new songs on IMRO, and then submit your set list. You have to remember to do that. All of these things are
applying for festivals, making sure that your EPK is all up to date and like everything's updated, all the different shows, all the different experiences that you have. Like not even real musicians. So the market is becoming very saturated in terms of like, how do we stand out in all of the noise that's coming through? You know what I mean? So like I do believe that people will still connect with the human essence, so to speak, because at the end of the day, we're the ones living day-to-day stuff that we're talking about in our music or like whatever stuff that we perform. So I do like to think that people will still want to go to live shows and see real people performing and listening to their music and purchasing their music, because essentially that's how you support independent artists or artists of any sort.
But you have to remember, I really like what Bandcamp is doing, that they actually like disqualified any AI music to be released on Bandcamp. So that is fantastic news, and I want to just emphasize that. And I hope other platforms take that into account. The only reason AI is any good at making music is because it's taking inspiration from real artists that have created the art, and that's where it's getting it from. It's not because they came up with it on its own. So it's not fair to not acknowledge the efforts of the artists that came before.
Yeah. It's just regurgitating essentially what other artists have made years and years that has been popular essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a crazy world out there.
It's a crazy world.